Be What You Are by Stephen Kurtenbach. Welcome to Stigma-Free Society's Facebook and YouTube Live. I am Dr. Daniel Toe. I work for the Surrey School District as a district principal. I want to welcome all of you to this live event. Just waiting for people to log on. If people are going to log on or you're going to watch this later, I welcome you to this Facebook Live and YouTube Live event. Hope you're enjoying the tunes. Very appropriate song for our Don't Survive, Thrive event for the Stigma-Free Society. And I want to welcome you all to this wonderful event. Today, I want to also remind you that I am Daniel Toe. I work for the Surrey School District as a district principal. My main responsibilities are mental health and wellness programs for at-risk and vulnerable youth, as well as summer learning. Here is my contact information, but always the disclaimer here is that I work for the Surrey School District. So things I'm going to say and everything that I talk about is really going to be representing the district and all that the district stands for. So I just want to make sure that we have that disclaimer because I don't want you to think that I'm just speaking randomly. Now, I also have my what I've studied and things that I've really grown interested and passionate about is working with mental health and wellness and working with at-risk and vulnerable youth. And so, that has led me to my work with the Stigma-Free Society. And I really want to encourage all of you to look at the Stigma-Free Society's mental health and wellness toolkit. There's tools for parents, tools for students, tools for teachers. It's a wonderful both website and toolkit. There's also a COVID-19 toolkit. I know today I'll be talking about COVID, fatigue, I think is the best word, COVID fatigue. And no better place to get resources than the Stigma-Free Society's website, where they have their toolkit for whoever you are, or whatever realm, society you're from, and whatever you need, the Stigma-Free Society's toolkit has something for you. So make sure you visit that. Again, here's my contact information, email, phone number, Twitter, and my blog. If you want to take a look or contact me about anything, feel free to do that. And as people log on or as you watch later, again, I want to welcome you to this broadcast. Today, what I will be mentioning and talking about, the topic of today is COVID fatigue. And I don't know if you've been watching the news, but one of the news stories that's come up over the last 4 or 5 days, it's been mentioned both on Global and CTV, and hopefully Maddie. Hi, Maddie Clarkson from Stigma-Free. Thank you for saying hi. Hopefully Maddie Clarkson from Stigma-Free can put the Global news link and the CTV news link on the comments because I will find multitasking quite difficult. And so as she puts that on in the comments, hopefully she can find those from my email and put those on there, you'll see that the statistics from the Insights West poll says that only 34% of BC residents, 34%, that's not very high. If I told you you were going to get 34% on an exam, or you had a 34% chance of making it from this destination to this destination without getting into a car crash, you probably wouldn't drive, or you probably would study for that test. And so the statistics show that only 34% of BC residents polled by Insights West say they are following the COVID-19 restrictions put on by our provincial health officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry, and the provincial government. That means, folks, that 66% of folks are bending the rules somewhat, whether that be bending them a lot and not following them at all, and we've seen people in the news have that issue, or they're just bending them a little tiny bit, seeing a friend a little bit closer than they should, or having smaller groups of people over for dinner, however they're bending. People are 66% of the people are bending the rules somewhat. Now, you might wonder why that is. We are in a global pandemic. We have seen in the U.S., I believe they've passed 400,000 deaths. Even in Canada, we've passed a larger number of deaths than we would like. And I know that even 1 death, 2 deaths from this horrible COVID-19 pandemic that's plagued us for the year, any death, 1 death, 2 deaths is too much. And so why, after a year of going through different levels of restrictions, and now in our current BC, our level of restrictions are, stick to your own family, only do things at a social distance, wear a mask at all times when you're at work or in public spaces. Public spaces, fewer faces, right? That's what they say in social distance. Why are folks, the majority of folks, 66%, if you win an election by 66%, that's a majority. If you get 66% on a test, you've passed. And why are 66% of the folks in BC, the majority of those polled, bending the rules somewhat? And that's really the questions I've been asked. And thank you, Maddie, for posting those 2 news articles. That's what, again, I've been watching those over and over again, really thinking about why this is happening. As many of you know, that my wife, Michelle, works in healthcare. She works at one of our local hospitals in the emergency, Royal Columbian Hospital. Shout out to all of Michelle's friends and coworkers at Royal Columbian Hospital. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do, saving lives every single day, putting on that PPE. Just a shout out to my wife and all her friends and all the work that you guys are doing. But, we see folks in hospital and we see things happening. Why then are the majority of the folks bending the rules somewhat? So let's take a look at this, okay? Let's take a look at why this is happening. And I have a few thoughts about that. Yes, Ann Whitmore, shout out to RCH. Thank you, Ann Whitmore. Exactly right. Why? Well, in BC, this is again, me watching the news, talking to students, reading the research, looking at data. But in BC, one of the reasons why I think, this is again Daniel To's opinion, but why I think the majority of people are breaking or bending or at least just sliding through the COVID restrictions a bit is that we are not quite locked down. We're still under some restrictions, but we also see that there's traffic jams, there's people in the malls, there's people in restaurants. So it's like we're walking through, purgatory. We're walking through a place where we're not quite at the place where we're just locked down in our houses like we were last year, but we're not quite free. It's sort of like, I don't know if any of you, I'm quite old, this probably ages me, but if you've ever watched The Princess Bride, you know that movie where the pirate guy, I forget his name, but he's going to save the princess, right? And the Princess Bride, well, at some point in the movie, he ends up nearly dead. Not quite dead, I think the guy put the giant pushes on his chest and he can talk, but he's nearly dead. And of course, through magic and potions, he's able to revive himself as it is in fairy tale movies. Well, likewise, in BC, we're not quite locked down. We're kind of locked down. We're able to do most of everything. I still get a great haircut, but I'm wearing masks and I can't really talk to my hairdresser as much. I can never see her face. And in some places, there's shields everywhere, right? I can sort of eat at a restaurant, but I can't eat with my friends, but I can eat with my family. But there's people across there, but there's a shield and we're QR coding the menus. So we're sort of back to normal, but not really. And every single day we get a notice or someone on TV saying, follow the restrictions. We're not quite there yet. The vaccine is coming. So we have this hope, but it's like we're running towards a light that we can never get closer to. And that's, I think, what it feels like for people, that you're walking down a highway, but you're never getting to your destination. You're going down a road, but never reaching the place you need to go. We are sort of nearly free, but we're still locked down. And this, I think, is definitely quite stressful for people because it's almost like we don't know what to do. It would almost be better to say, you're completely locked down. This is exactly what you need to do. Order food to your house and only go out for groceries. Don't go anywhere else. Or you're completely free, right? Either one would be better than kind of, right? Nearly free or totally free, you might get the chance of getting COVID, but at least we know what we can and cannot do. Completely locked down, likely won't get COVID, but you're not free to go anywhere. But at least we know. And not knowing is stressful. Number 2, we are social beings, and the COVID restrictions are keeping us from what we crave the most, interaction. And I don't care if you're an introvert or an extrovert, at some level, all of us, even the most introverted of us, crave some sort of interaction. Whether as for a person that's an introvert, right, it's with one person or just one close friend or one family member, or if you're an extrovert with everybody, we all crave interaction. And, these COVID-19 restrictions are keeping us from making the choice of how to interact and who to interact with. We feel like we have no choice. And as social beings, that's very difficult. We want to have the choice of saying, I will interact today and I won't interact tomorrow. These are the people that I want to see, and this is what I want to do with these people. And not being able to do these things is a problem. It's stressful. And as social beings, we find that very, very difficult. And I see in the chat, and Whitmore, again, thank you for posting what you posted. Yeah, hope deferred makes the heart sick. That's exactly what I was talking about before. And same with this. We make plans, but we plan plans for things that may never come to pass. With friends, we say online, when we have Zoom calls, next year we'll be able to do this. Next year we'll be able to do this. Next year we'll be able to go on that cruise. Next year we'll be able to go on vacation. But it feels like next year will never come. The next interaction may never really come. The next hug that we crave is never going to happen. Thirdly, as parents, caregivers, and leaders, and I know that I'm talking to those who tend to watch me here because I sometimes email my staff, teachers, leaders, parents, caregivers, we are so busy trying to make things great for everyone else, we forget to take care of ourselves. I've had many different opportunities to converse with different people just because of my job and the nature of my job. And my wife and I, we do try and keep up with our friends the best we can, either on Zoom or on text or over the phone. And it feels like everybody's trying to make things better for everyone else. Everyone's trying to make their kids' lives better or their parents' lives better. I know my wife is always concerned about making sure her parents are okay. I know her siblings think that too. Make sure their parents are okay. I want to make sure I'm lucky my dad is with my brother, and they're introverts and they're counselors. Funny thing, shout out to Nathan and Chitato. You are introverts, but you're also counselors. I don't quite understand it, but you're awesome. And but they have each other at the very least, and I want to make sure though that they're always okay. But we're always trying to make sure that other people are okay. We forget about ourselves. We forget about that we have to build up our own resilience, and we have to make sure that we are feeling okay. Because if you don't feel okay, how can you take care of others? So this is also a very stressful thing. Not only do we look to a road that we don't know what's going to happen, and we're in sort of this no person's land, this purgatory of existence. Not only can we not interact with the people that we want to interact with, but we are also trying to take care of everyone else and weakening our own resilience, draining our own energy. As my wife likes to say, emptying our own cups. When you are empty, you cannot fill other people. And so as parents, caregivers, leaders, we're so busy doing that we forget to take care of ourselves. And that's another stressor. So what then? How can we build resilience to combat COVID fatigue? Again, I'm not saying anything that you cannot read in a book or you cannot talk to a psychologist or counselor about, or that you probably Google, what can I do to build resilience to combat COVID fatigue on YouTube, and probably find a whole bunch of people that are going to talk to you about this. On the Stigma-Free Society's YouTube site and on our school district's mental health site, we have people, experts telling you this. So I'm not saying anything that you probably haven't heard before, but maybe you haven't heard it this way. So I hope to be able to shed some knowledge and some light on how can you build a resilience to combat COVID fatigue during this Stigma-Free Society broadcast. Here are my suggestions. And I am going to leave some time if there are any questions later on, because today, for some reason, I seem to be talking quicker than I typically would, and it's only 2:14. So if there are any questions from the people viewing today, feel free to ask it later. I have some time later as to answer questions, probably at around 2:20. So please, if you have questions, please put them into this chat. Or Maddie, people are asking you questions, you can put those in the chat on behalf of those people. First of all, here's a suggestion. Find joy in the things you can control. I've heard and I've said it myself and I've done it. Oh, when this is all over, we will. When this COVID-19 pandemic is over, we shall. And we cannot control these things. We cannot control the restrictions. We cannot control what's happening around us in terms of who wears a mask and who won't. We cannot control, how many people are breaking the rules across from us. We cannot control the 66% of people. So find joy in things you can control. The things that you can do with your kids, the meal kits that you can order to come, if that's something that you like to do, or the things you can do with your family, things that you can do with some of your friends at a distance, if outside, right? Find joy in the things that you can control. If you can control what you do in your job, find joy in that. If you can control what things happen in your family, find joy in those things, right? If you don't look for joyful things, you will only experience despair. So the idea is that, look at different parts of your life and find joys in things you control. And along with that, together with that, and that's why they're together on this point, make realistic plans and goals. As I mentioned before, I have said, a year from now, 2022, let's plan a cruise. I just read an article that the cruise industry is looking towards 2022 as a big rebound. There apparently are people are booking, what is a British article, £100,000 cruises? That's insane. £100,000 cruise. I don't know where you're going for £100,000 or what you're living in or what kind of lobster they'll serve you on that cruise. But people are making those plans for 2022, not knowing what's going to happen in 2022. People are planning for unrealistic things, setting unrealistic goals, and only probably to be disappointed because they don't actually know. The whole entire world is still in this no man's land. Some places have heavier restrictions, some places don't. Some places have travel restrictions, like Canada. When you come back, you got to quarantine until you get your test, at least for 3 days, and then for another 14 until you get a negative test, right? There's so many things that we can't control. And if you make unrealistic plans and goals, you can only ever be disappointed if those things don't come to fruition. So the idea is to make realistic plans, realistic goals, and to be able to accomplish small steps, right? I'm going to socially distance with our cousins at a park wearing masks. Let's let the kids see their cousins at a distance wearing masks. Like, that is a realistic goal that you can plan to make sure everyone is safe. Let's together go and order sushi and have a sushi night for our family, and let's revel in that. One thing that my kids and my wife, we've actually grown to really love doing is either finding a board game that we want to explore and play together, or I've tried to teach my son how to play rugby, because there's not really rugby games right now or rugby teams, and he's 5, so how much rugby could he play? He's the size of a rugby ball. But every night I say, okay, we got to toss this thing 10 times, toss it 10 times, toss it 10 times. And that is something that we can realistically do. And he looks forward to that. He's 5. He looks forward to throwing a rugby ball in our house. Sorry, Michelle, in our house 10 times. And he's able to do that. My daughter, she looks forward to dance because she's allowed to do that. And she looks forward to the Tuesdays and Saturdays. And we say, okay, well, let's make sure that we say hi to your friends at dance, and make sure you wear a mask, but make sure you enjoy yourself. Tell me what you've done at dance and how you can improve, and setting goals with their teachers for virtual competitions. Making goals that you can accomplish. Planning to draw, instead of saying, okay, well, we're going to go and do a ski resort weekend in a place that you don't know if you're going to go there. Hey, let's take a couple ski lessons and make sure we go to a local mountain, ski there, be safe, come home. Right? And make realistic plans and goals that you can accomplish. That, and find joy in that. And those things will definitely make you feel much better. 2 more suggestions for you. Make the most of your existing social connections and existing ability to foster these connections. So we are allowed to gather with people socially distanced. We can go for walks and with people not in your bubble, wear masks, but we can socially interact. I don't know how many times I've driven down the streets on a day like today. It's fairly sunny in, where am I now? Surrey, British Columbia. And I've seen people stand at the street corners, walking their dogs, standing actually 12 feet apart, not even 6, 12 feet apart, having conversations with their neighbors. I have seen people at the office in this district building chatting with each other as we pass each other, wearing masks in our hallways at social distance. I have seen people taking runs together. but at a social distance. Things are a little bit different, but I have seen people being able to follow the restrictions, making the most of existing social connections, and fostering these connections and growing these connections. Connections with your family. There has never been a time in our recent history, and I hope my wife can affirm this, I think, that our family's been closer. There's never been a time that I've gotten along better with my wife or better with my kids, because we're making the most of the social connections that we have, right? I know this is harder for young people because you're used to being in schools and hanging out, and my kids are the same way. And I know that, but it's so hard to not have to sort of engage in those connections that we made before, but there are connections that you can make, and to foster these things now and make the most of them is really important. Again, going back to that finding joy. And finally, take care of yourself first. This goes to the part where we're all trying to help other people. We're trying to help our family, our friends, our coworkers, that we're forgetting about ourselves. And remember that oxygen mask analogy, where in an airplane, and when I first took an airplane, I actually didn't get it because I'm like, wouldn't I want to save the children first, right? But they tell you, put on the oxygen mask first and then put it on the people beside you if they can't manage. And you would think, typically, you open the door for people. You don't, open the door, get in, and then open the door for people, right? But with oxygen, with a life-saving gas, oxygen, if your plane is going down or there's something wrong with the oxygen in your plane, if you can't breathe, there is 0% chance that you will be able to help the person next to you breathe. 0% chance. And that's why they tell you to put on the oxygen mask first. Likewise, if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are emptying your bucket, emptying your cup, and if you can't be resilient yourself, the chances of you helping your friend, your family, your kids, your coworkers, your students is next to zero, because you're so tired, you're so fatigued from emptying your cup that there's nothing you can use to fill other people. And so it's so important to do that, to take care of yourself first, to use things like the Stigma-Free Society Toolkit, or reading books, or making sure you spend time in meditation or prayer, if that's what you want to do. Spending the time to take care of yourself first, making sure you yourself are filled up. That's so important before you go and help others. And in case you're wondering, I am like this normally because I do fill myself up. And when people ask, what do you do to fill yourself up? I take time to myself. My wife and I actually often, before we chat at night, we actually take time to ourselves to refill ourselves from the full day that we've had, from the day at work, from the day with our kids. We take time separate and then together, and we have found that has filled up. So we have energy to be with our kids the next day, to be with each other, to support one another the next day. And for me to come to be able to shoot videos like this, I wouldn't be able to do that unless my cup was full. I can promise you that I would not be like this unless my cup was full. And I've been able to take care of myself and put on my oxygen mask, and therefore I can, give this type of advice on video. So this is really it. The final one, the most important one, is if you can't help yourself, if you cannot fill your cup, you cannot find things to fill your cup, ask and seek for help. Look for help. And if you don't know where, these two websites, the Stigma-Free Society website with their toolkit, there's lots of resources there for you. There's lots of contacts. And also on our Surrey School District's mental health website, there's a resource page that has literally 40 or 50 resources, and if you click on them, there are more resources that you can click on to be able to find the type of resource and help that you would need, whether that be counseling, or if you want to Google some churches or mosques or religious organizations that you feel that flow in line with your faith beliefs, right? You gotta go seek help somewhere. And I encourage people, if you need it, go for counseling. I encourage, if you need it, to go for a psychologist. I encourage it, if you need it, to find someone to talk to. If you don't have that level of support at your home, or you can't find that level of support in whatever form you decide to find it in, definitely go seek it out. Because if you cannot have your bucket fill, you cannot fill other people's bucket. So ask and seek for help. That's really, really important. Probably the most important suggestion that I can give. And thank you, Ann Whitmore, for affirming that in the chat. So we have 6 minutes. I don't know if there are any questions. Once again, I'll give you my contact information. It's here. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask it in the chat. Otherwise, we will end this broadcast. I'm not sure, Maddie, are there any questions or anything like that from that you're getting, or anybody has it in the chat? There are some people watching here, so I'm not sure if you have any of those questions. I'm just going to wait a little bit. Must be very boring for the people watching after. It's like, how come no one's asking questions? This guy's just standing here telling stories about why there are no questions. Yes, typically I like to spend time doing that as people ask questions. Because I feel it's odd to just stand there on video and like, how do I find work-life balance? Thank you, Carla Walsh, and thank you for this question. How do I find a work-life balance? I can honestly tell you, and people like my wife, Michelle, and Whitmore, who knows me a little bit, and Carla Walsh will tell you, I've had a very difficult time finding work-life balance, especially with this work at home. I find that I'm always working, my phone's always on. And here is actually a very interesting way that I did it. I broke my Apple Watch. Yes, Maddie, or Stigma-Free Society, whoever's asking that question, I broke my Apple Watch. Fell, shattered, broke. And actually, funny thing, my wife broke hers as well. I replaced hers, but I did not replace my own. Now, she needs it for work because taking on a phone in an emergency room, it's gross. It's disgusting and dirty. So things buzzing on her wrist that's coming from work or coming from home or something is really important. But for me, breaking my Apple Watch was the best thing I ever did, and not replacing it, because now I'm not constantly getting buzzed. And I realized after breaking my Apple Watch that people did not care that instead of responding to an email in 2 minutes, I took 20 minutes. People did not care that I missed the call and then I called them back or texted them back. People did not care that it took me a little bit longer to respond to a text than it typically would take me before. Yes, for the first week, people were like, are you okay? You didn't respond exactly right away. But after a while, people were used to the little bit longer response time. I still responded. I was still an active, I would hope, principal for my programs, and also district principal in working with our district partners. And also, hopefully, I was, when my wife texted me, I still responded. And she didn't come home. I didn't come home, and she goes, "Oh, you totally ignored me for like hours, right?" People did not care that it took me just a little bit longer to reply. And that's really how I find work-life balance, to get back to your question, is that I put my devices down the best I can, especially if I'm playing with my kids. And yes, it's taking me a lot longer, Michelle, to do that. It's taking me longer, but that's what I've really worked on practicing doing, is ignoring the work and spending time with my family and doing the things I enjoy. Even when I watch a show now, I try my best not to look at my phone. I leave it away. And breaking my Apple Watch, sorry, Apple, I have lots of Apple stuff, but breaking the Apple Watch was the best thing that ever happened to me. Another question, I'm interested about the stigma of those who get COVID-19. How may they particularly get support and find ways of acceptance and society from others? Well, Andrea, I know that in our district, our school counselors and our district resource counselors are a resource for kids and staff who get COVID-19. I know in the places where COVID's become more of an issue, like in the schools that have been in the news, we do have school counselors and district staff that try and the principals of the schools, in fact, try and care for those families. I've actually found that, and having had COVID run through some of my programs as well, that there's actually not a huge stigma for those who get COVID. I think it's because people are following. Actually, interestingly, people are bending the restrictions, but people are following when they actually get COVID to have the 14-day quarantine time away. And I find that there's actually a high level of care and compassion for those who do get COVID. I for our students and for any of the staff that I've encountered, and for my friends who are principals in schools that have had this happen, there's nothing but care, nothing but compassion from both the community, news media, and from our senior leadership in the district. And I'm only talking about what I see on Twitter, but I know that our superintendent has been very transparent about the level of care that we provide in the district, and and has been commended for that on Twitter. And I'm not saying anything that's not already publicly out there. So one more question. So I don't find, Andrea, that there's a lot of stigma. I've not encountered that, but there is district support with the district's counselors and with your school counselors if students are feeling that. Finally, what is some advice you have for educators and school staff regarding COVID-19 fatigue in particular? Honestly, and I tell this to my kids' teachers, and it feels like I'm repeating some of the slides I just said, but take care of yourself. If you need something like Pro-D, or you need some sort of support, please talk to either the employee service that has, like, for us, it's, I forget the name of it, but there's an employee counseling service and employee help service. that you can go to Human Resources if you're part of Surrey or any other district. Go to your employee sort of counseling service that they provide for free. Your union and HR provides that and collaboratively for free for you, and go for that help. Go to your principal if you feel that there's something happening in your classroom. Definitely seek help and seek to fill your own bucket. Take time. Don't spend so much. Thank you, Carla Walsh. Employee Family Assistance Plan. I think it's Montelier. I can't remember. Carla, if you find that, please put that for the Surrey folks into the chat. But Montelier is a drink. It's water. It's not even the plan. It's a Morneau Employee Family Assistance Plan. Montelier is a drink, sparkling water. Morneau is the Surrey District's Employee Family Assistance Plan. So, like you can do that. You can, again, for staff who need something to support them in the schools, definitely talk to your principal, definitely talk to your district folks about how they can support you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's why that slide, I'm gonna go back to that slide. This is the most important thing, ask and seek for help. If you don't do that, nobody can help you if they don't know that you need help, right? So make sure you do that. And I think those are all the questions. If there are any other questions, feel free to email me, call me, Twitter me, go to my blog and leave a comment. I haven't blogged in a while because we've been so busy working on mental health supports for the district. I just haven't had a chance to write. I will write something prior to spring break. So thank you so much for watching the Stigma-Free Society's Facebook Live and YouTube Live event. And I really appreciate you coming on and watching either now or watching after. Please remember to visit the Stigma-Free Society's website to look at their COVID-19 toolkit as well as their mental health toolkit. They're great and they do such great work. Thank you, Andrea Paquette, for all that you do, and Maddie Clarkson, and everybody who works for Stigma-Free Society. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. I will be interviewing a school psychologist on March 9th. So make sure you tune in then. Have a great day. This is Be What You Are by Stefan Kurtenbach. See you later. Make it a great day.